Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1016 of our daily content grind, and today we are going to be delving into the world of the movie Transformers, specifically the realm of ones that never appeared in the movies. The fun part about the Transformer movie lines is that they are very limited in the number of Transformers that can fit on screen, not only because there's only so much runtime, but also because, ILM models are really expensive, so they don't really want to break the budget doing too many of them. So, inevitably, when you have to fill out the most popular toy line of the mid and late 2000s, you're going to run into a lot that has to be filled in. You're going to have to come up with different repaints, and sometimes you're going to have to come up with completely brand new characters that never appeared in anything except the comics and the novels. So that's what it is today. We're going to be focusing on the different Transformer toys that I would like to see again, whether it is a Generations version of the character into like the proper, more G1 style aesthetic, or another Go in Studio series at a different price point or changed up somehow. These are just my favorites of all of the non-movie toys that I really do want another go at. I was going to start with Skystalker and Mind Wipe here until I realized those two are pretty much perfect, and I don't think a modern version is actually going to do them any better. So we'll let them be. They're already doing great. However, wouldn't mind a new Dirt Boss. I mean, it's the forklift, right? It's just the fact that the forklift is a fun novelty, but it's also a really fun figure. I don't know how it would do as a deluxe, but I wouldn't mind seeing it again just for the sake of the fact that it's literally the only forklift Transformer. And you would think, is it so much to ask for it to just come with a deluxe version that just comes with a folded piece of paper that's like a forklift certification form? A fake one, obviously, but get in on the memes, Hasbro. What you doing? But we've talked about this before. We've talked about a lot of these little guys in previous videos, so we're going to kind of go through them a little bit quicker. Hubcap is another one because it is such a nice vehicle mode of classic cars. Classic cars do not get enough Transformers. He is a very nice interpretation of one, and he still has a lot of traditional forms in the way his transformation works. I like the look of his robot mode, like his coloring. I would really like to see him in more G1 style as a full-size deluxe. I think there is a lot of uniqueness to him. Speaking of unique, that also brings me to Ransack. Unique aesthetic, fun colors because they are very timey colors. It allows you to put a lot of character not only into the vehicle mode but also into the robot mode. I would like another go at this just because the original one, because it's a biplane Transformer, which is still kind of nuts, there is a lot of engineering. There's a lot of engineering on him that really, really could be shored up, that really could benefit from him being like a deluxe or even a Voyager. He is a plane, so technically he should be a Voyager class. I would love to see what you could do in him at a larger scale. And just again, similar to Dirt Boss, it's a very unique vehicle. There is no other biplane Transformer other than repaints of this toy. I would love to see them take it on again. And that's just getting into Scout class Transformers. We've gone on about the Scout class a lot. I wanted to dive into some of the other size classes that we don't touch on quite as much. And we're going to go through as many of them as we can, because there's 4 different movie lines that did this. Once we got into The Last Night, Bumblebee, Age of Extinction, they didn't really need to do this nearly as much anymore. So we've only got 4 movies to go through, but we will step it up here. Let's talk about some more aerial vehicles, shall we? We'll start with Dirge. I believe this is only from Hunt for the Decepticons, not the actual Revenge of the Fallen toy line, but it is still a movie-inspired and based toy line, despite a few G1s sneaking in there, thanks to Hasbro, kind of sneaking one in past the retailers. I really like the design of this. Number one, Harrier Jet is just a cool vehicle. I would really love for a mainstay Transformer to adopt a Harrier as their main form of vehicle mode. What I like about this design is that it actually does hit the movie aesthetic, but still works in a lot of the familiar details you would expect of a Conehead figure. It has, of course, the cone head, but the torso also includes those shoulder pylons as well as the vents in the chest that you would expect from a traditional Seeker. And then, yeah, you've got the wings attached to the legs as well. All of this hits all the right notes for a dirge, but it's done in a very movie style. You know, if we're being honest here, it's the kind of design the movies should have had from the beginning. It's recognizable as a character, but it's still giving you that fresh, you know, like ILM style of aesthetic. So that works for me. So I take a very quick sip of water because my throat suddenly got dry on me. Also, the colors just work really well for the jet mode itself. Like, it's a really nice looking jet with the gold and the blue. Yeah, I would love to see this one again at a larger scale. Also again, so that we can get ramjet and thrust from the mold as well. On the other side of things, what about Breakaway? This is an interesting one, not only because it's such a unique thing. Not only do we get like a standard fighter jet from the Autobots, but also it's got a weird kind of aesthetic to it, like the sunken head and the high shoulders. He's got kind of like a different look. His head sculpt is interesting, and it, in a weird way, kind of looks like nicer or kinder, if that makes any sense, than the standard movie bots. He doesn't look as angry, let's put it that way. This one's also weird because once upon a time, there was actually a rumor that a studio series Breakaway was on the way. It was going to be a Voyager class. And then it just kind of fell under the radar and vanished. Like, we heard about it in like a rumor list, and I think most of everything on it materialized, but not Breakaway. And it's an interesting time to bring that up again because we're seeing studio series branch out into you know, the toy, you know, like the video games, like into like video game based designs, you know, and just trying to figure out, like, trying to keep the studio series line alive, even though they are kind of lacking in like actual movie characters. But tapping this nostalgia for these kind of designs, this would work, which is another reason why we do this video, because hey, you need something, studio series. So how about Breakaway? How about Terra Dive while we're at it? Talk about unique. Reverse Wing is already kind of rare amongst Transformers, unless it's a legacy character like Cyclonus doing it. But it's the way that it handles everything else. Look at how the torso comes together. Like, you have a traditional like cockpit chest, but done literally upside down and incorporating more elements. It's a really cool looking figure. You know, a lot of just really fun details in there. Not only that, spear weapons are kind of rare. So it's actually a really cool one. This is another one I would love to see upscale. This is another one I'd love to see repaints and retools of. Speaking of, Skyhammer. Now, this is one where I think the attack copter and the robot mode look really cool, but I don't know what it was about this toy. I remember when this toy came out during Dark of the Moon, and everyone got so hyped over how cool this toy was. And when I finally got my hands on it, I just kind of look at it and went like, it's okay. It's okay. That's not great, but you know, it's fine. I think a lot of people loved it just because it figured out something to do with the helicopter blades that didn't mean it was just hanging off his back or off of his arms somewhere where they could easily get broken or bent. It's a cool design, but there's just something about it that just never clicked with me. But I would love for them to take another stab at it, so maybe the next version, maybe getting it again, is actually going to like find that little spot in my brain where it needs to live in order for me to really get behind the toy. Because it does have potential. It is a cool design in both modes. Why it never really struck me, I don't know. But I would love for them to give it another shot. I would love to give this toy another shot. Just maybe designed a little bit differently. How about Long Arm? I really like this. It's just like a standard kind of tow truck. You know, it's an alternative to Hoist, even though it has made a really good movie Hoist when it got repainted. I like the green version of this toy better than the white. But it is just a cool design in that it's, again, doing something a little bit different. It's very barrel-chested. Like, Very barrel-chested, wide-shoulder kind of look. It's a very tough, very strong look for an Autobot character, and I actually really, really like it. I like the diamond plate across the chest and this, unlike as a forearm shield. I like that. If the accessory could come off of his hand, I think the toy would be even better. It's screwed into place, oddly enough, but it's also doing something that a lot of movie toys just kind of fail to do very well. It's using its kibble well. You know, it doesn't really rely too much on shell. You know, a lot of that bulk just kind of folds up and finds a spot in the robot. This is where, like, I really, really love the '07 movie toys that weren't in the movie, because they do have something of, like, a more traditional design aesthetic and mindset behind them. They're not over complex. They're not relying on lots and lots of tabs to hold parts together. They just kind of work as Transformers. You know, it's still kind of carrying some of that Cybertron Classics mindset behind the engineering, which is one reason they just appeal to me as much as they do. Here's one where I'm cheating, because it's technically a remold, but it's a remold that came out so cool, I want them to do it again, and that is Dark Steel, which is, strangely enough, an homage to Quick Strike, which you can see in the head, and it is essentially how the colors work out, but obviously way more black to the colorization. It comes across as a very cool, like, Nemesis-esque color scheme, but it works. It really works on the Sideswipe mold. It's a really, really cool look. I would love to see this again. Again, because here's something else that Transformers doesn't really do very often, because it limits what they can do design-wise so much. Convertibles. You don't get a lot of convertibles in Transformers, because that takes away that nice, convenient space in between all the windows of the car where they can cram robot mode bits. So this is a very unique figure in that, and I would love for them to give it another shot, if only because I love the design on this, and I'd love for the character to become a thing. You know, I can't get Quick Strike, so can I get Dark Steel instead, please? Here's another one that was a popular figure when it came out. Would love to see them take another attempt at it. That is the original movie RC. If I remember right, this was actually slated to actually be in a movie and got cut. Like, this is like a leftover design they made that was supposed to be used somewhere. But for whatever reason, they left it on the cutting room floor. And it's a shame, because it's a really, really cool design. So here's the thing. Hasbro struggled for years around this time with actually releasing RC toys in the first place. And even the years after this, they would still insist that RC toys don't really end up pink and white. They were very, very hesitant to make like a very feminine looking Transformer in what was still considered to be a boys toy line at the time. Animated RC came much closer to red. Like I think I think a few RCs did that, but this, it hits this like super metallic pink, this like that really, really hits really, really well. And it works really well with the black as well. So it does hit like a movie RC kind of color scheme that I completely accept and would love to get again. And beside that, I think it looks way better than the RCs that came later that actually were in the movie. I think it's a way better take on RC than that one was. Just saying. I'd love for them to give it another go. It's not a bad look. We're going back to '07 now, and we're going with one of my favorite of the three drones. That is Payload. Payload, again, vehicle mode that doesn't really get used much. It's an armored truck, like the kind that would carry money to and from businesses and banks. And it's just a very heavily armored vehicle that is a nice design that you could do a lot with. And then you have the robot, which basically is like the vehicle flipping inside out, and comes up with this nice, stocky, cool-looking robot. I like the two-tone shades of blue. The off-white, silvery kind of off-white offsets it really nicely. I think it's a perfect vehicle to use as kind of a drone unit, because you can populate a city with them and no one's really going to notice. I think the big reason people were down on this toy was because it had a very intrusive gimmick where he had a plunger sticking out his lower back and pushing it forward, made this arm with a grabber claw come out and spring forward, which I thought was a cool gimmick. It's actually kind of a fun gimmick. Yes, it has this big stick coming out of his back, but the gimmick's fun. And that's me. Me, like that gimmicks are evil guy saying that. That'll tell you how much I thought that gimmick was neat. But on a modern Studio Series toy, this being a truck would probably be up at the Voyager price point. It wouldn't have that big intrusive gimmick. He could just be a big bruiser of a bot, and that appeals to me. Because it's still ultimately the overall look and design that gets me more than the gimmick does. This is one I'd love to see again. Also, this toy was retooled into Dispensor, the not Mountain Dew bot. So we get a brand new version of Payload. We can get a new Dispensor in a Voyager class too. I know there's people out there who love that. How about Guzzle? I wanted to reach into like some of the other sizes and some of the other realms that you don't really expect for some of these. So yeah, I went into Dark of the Moon Cyberverse for this. Now, it's a very simple way of transforming a robot into a tank. I will give you that. But I think it's a very effective way of doing it, and I think it comes across really, really cool looking. Now, we're always happy to see tanks coming up in Transformers. If you did this toy, I could easily see some kind of Tankor-inspired retool and repaint of it down the line. And yeah, it's just a nice, simple design for a tank. Nothing really bad to say about it. I just think the toy looks really cool. I just really like to get a bigger one, please. How about Scorn? And you're going to tell me, but wait, in the last night, Scorn had a brand new toy. They did a Voyager Scorn. Yes, I didn't like it. I am sorry. I did not like the Voyager Scorn. I thought it was overcomplicated, and I thought it lost a lot of the elements that made the original Deluxe look really, really cool. Like the Deluxe itself has this like sleeker, slender, more battle-ready aesthetic to it. It looks more like a warrior ready to fight than the Voyager one, which I think just kind of looks kind of clunky and over-involved. So if I'm going to get a new Scorn, modern Dinobot or not, I'd really like it to lean closer to how the Deluxe turned out than how the Voyager one did. I understand the Voyager's more accurate to original concept. Don't care. Deluxe is better. That's my opinion. I'm moving on. Here's a weird one you're not going to expect on this list. Booster X10. Because I think this is a genius way of making a new Laserbeak toy. Absolutely genius way of making a new Laserbeak toy. Now, granted, no one really uses MP3 players anymore. Our phone pretty much handles everything. But that also got me thinking, why don't you just make Soundwave minions into cell phones? I mean, like phone? This is normal. Like, this is about the size of a cassette, a little bit bigger, actually. So in fiction, this is basically about the size that all of those minions turned into in the first place. So we could potentially have that. I don't know how they'd incorporate into Soundwave, but you know what? It's an option. And then you have like a whole line of like little role-play toys that just look like cell phones that transform into different cassette figures. You see, this is where my head is buzzing. This is where my head starts cooking these ideas. And you can do these with Blasters cassettes too, because we gotta have Autobots in this line too. But no, I think this was brilliant. I would love for this to be maybe not like a full-on redo of this particular toy, but I would love for them to just use it as an inspiration point to do the new Soundwave cassettes in a new way. And we finish it off with the one I want the most. You can go ahead and make this guy leader class. That's how big the vehicle is, and that's how cool the overall look is, and I want him that badly. That is Wreckage. Oh, this one is always so cool. Number 1. APC, an armored personnel carrier. Again, a vehicle that gets used once in a while, but never really has a home amongst a main, like main transformer. I know there are some around, and I know there have been some in the past, but like it's a vehicle that really doesn't have a home in the franchise. No character that's specifically designed with that in mind, and is always depicted as that vehicle, and is a recurring character, by the way. I'm sorry, Scattershot. Beyond that, it's just a cool design. Like the red works with the Arctic details. It just kind of pops out of nowhere, which is cool. Overall design is really, really good. I love that he's got the Darth Maul thing going on with the 2 big arm blades that they can then combine into the one big one. He's just all around one of the best designs to not make it into the movies. Yeah, it's just that good. Like above any of the other like non-movie toys. Wreckage. This is the one I would take. Do it in a Voyager, do it as a leader. I would take this toy. In a heartbeat, I would take this toy. And then I'm sure some of you would love to get the bludgeon repaint they did. I wouldn't mind that either. So that's just a quick list. There's plenty of toys from the movie lines that never made it into future toy lines. A lot that never made it into the movies. A lot of them deserve a fair shake, and some that I left off of this list completely. So feel free to discuss your favorite one in the comments below, especially if I happen to skip it. Doesn't mean it doesn't deserve a new toy, just means it's not one of my immediate priorities. That's just me. So, as always, thank you everyone for watching. I will see you next time.